victories that could crush the Republican Party and put control of the Senate, possibly the House, in the hands of the Democratic Party. To my panel for reaction, RNC spokeswoman and author of The New American Revolution, Kayleigh McEnany, and District Media Group President Beverly Hallberg. Kayleigh, let me start with you. How nervous are they inside the RNC? Be honest now.
Well, not nervous. You know, we'll admit to you that it is always difficult to maintain control of the House and the Senate after a new president has been elected, Obama. That certainly held true. So, yes, it's a challenge. We'll admit that. But the same analysts predicting a tidal wave of new Democrats and losing our majorities are the same analysts who said Donald Trump could never be president. They were wrong. The Senate map looks very good for us. We know there are 10 senators up for re-election, Democratic senators who are in states that Donald Trump won. 5 of those Donald Trump won by double digits. So hard road, absolutely, but not at all what you're hearing predicted in the mainstream media.
Of course, in recent history, Beverly, we've seen where the waves have been substantial, where the opposing party has garnered far more than the number of seats that they needed. So when the waves do happen, they've typically been tidal waves.
Yeah, and I think, well, I never would have thought I would say this, but I think Republicans actually are hoping that James Carville's statement, it's about the economy, stupid, holds true. I think we're going to have to wait and see what happens with tax reform. I think that's going to see a tidal wave of opinion on that, if you want to use that term. But here's where it is a little bit difficult for Republicans. As you were mentioning, you have plenty who are vacating. There are 35 seats that Republicans are vacating either due to retirement or they've been appointed or they're running for a different office. And at the same time, Democrats only need 24 seats in order to take over the House. So I do think there's room to be concerned, especially since we have a president who is unconventional and is definitely liking the Twitter feed these days.
Well, you know, and I think, too, it's sort of ironic that the Gingrich era rules on chairmanships has contributed to this because it's, in a way, it creates term limits, de facto term limits, but it's hurting the Republican Party. And I guess maybe that's why the Democrats never do it, Kayleigh. But speaking of President Trump, the Twitter feed and his presence, how important is it going to be for him not only to have this great economy continue, but to hit the road and help these candidates, some who may be new to the to voters?
Charles, it's a great point, and we at the RNC see it as indispensable. You know, Chairwoman McDaniel has been very clear in saying every candidate should welcome Donald Trump to their district. We think it's very important. In Virginia, in the gubernatorial race that we lost, Donald Trump notably did not go to that state, and we wish that he would have gone to that state. But again, I also want to point out our Democratic friends who are pointing to Virginia and New Jersey and saying, you know, this is indications of Democrats winning in 2018. You know, I'd point them to the first 4 special elections that we did win in Georgia and Montana and South Carolina and elsewhere. So we do have a very good record of victory.
Right, folks, and what you're watching right now is live. President Trump, the First Lady, and the first son, or the youngest son, Barron, all getting off Air Force One, Joint Base Andrews. Of course, they had a long weekend. It's back to work, and hopefully all well rested and relaxed. A lot on the plate this week, including, of course, the shutdown possibility of the government by Friday, and all of the other issues that just continue to swirl around our country. But it's really amazing. President Trump, one of the more active presidents. He travels a lot, but he's always active. He's always out there, and he's back home, and looks like he's raring to go. We'll have more on that in a moment, but I want to get back to you for a moment, Beverly. It does seem possibly that the Democrats are overplaying their hand as well. And to Kayleigh's point, I think that Georgia election was pretty interesting because that suburb of Atlanta has one of the highest educated populace, I think the 3rd highest rate of college graduates, and they were assured that those folks were going to vote against President Trump, and it was a pretty easy victory for the Republicans. So there are pockets of success that the media doesn't talk about when it comes to Republicans.
And I would say the Democrats have a problem still to this day. I don't know if they've learned their lesson from 2016, is that they need to talk about what they are for. There's a lot of Trump bashing. I think in certain pockets that's definitely going to work well. But Democrats need to talk about what they're for and put good candidates out. And at the same time, the Republican candidates do have a hard time. And one of the reasons why is even if they agree with the president on a lot of his policies, work with him on getting tax reform passed, for example, they're having to answer questions about his Twitter feed on a constant basis and on his comments, and that puts them in a difficult position when they don't want to look like they agree with the style that he uses, but want to support him in the substance. So that's a tricky place for them.
But they will have something to talk about, this economy, the stock market, And to your
Yes.
point, you know what, the Dems, I don't know what their message is except anti-Trump, and it didn't work in November of 2016. Ladies, thank you both very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks, Charles.
All right, folks, we'll be right back.